Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's nonprofit community roundtable. My name is Catherine Whitworth. I'm with the Center for Service and Learning, and I want to, of course, welcome our panel of presenters, and Nancy Young will be introducing them. And first of all, I think it's just amazing the spread that MSNAP has put on to welcome us there in the back. Thank you so much, Giselle, for the beautiful reception table. And also to David from MSNAP, and especially to Nancy Young. Many of you may already know Nancy, but if you don't, you will come to know her because she is not only a champion for the mission of the Mountaineer Spay and Neuter Assistance Program, but she is a champion for the community and for nonprofits in general. She designed this entire program, invited the speakers, set all of this up, and helped me rally people to come. And I'm just so grateful to have Nancy as a partner in our community. And I thought that would be helpful to the speakers if we could just, if you don't mind, pass the mic around and just let them know who you are and what organization or cause you represent so that they notice a little bit quickly about who they're talking with. And then also after the presentation, we'll do some more networking, and the retail's beautiful store will remain open for you to pick up the rest of your lovely holiday decor. So anyway, thank you so much for coming on a Sunday afternoon.
My name is Lisa Maxey, and I am also with the Humane Society.
I'm Jennifer Powell, and I'm talking to Jillian about working with the Morgantown Art Party.
Hi, I'm Giselle Purnell. I'm a volunteer with MSNAP and also the volunteer store manager at Retails.
Hi, I'm David McQuaid. I'm with Mountaineer Spay Neuter Assistance Program, and I'm a volunteer at the store as well.
Hi, I'm Neil Burton. I'm with the Morgantown History Museum, and I'm also a volunteer with Morgantown Art Party.
I'm Julie Kelly. I'm here with Morgantown Art Party. We work with local artists and musicians to bring community together through art and music. We like to work with other organizations to help.
My name is Melissa Knight. I'm here with Morgantown Swing Dance. I'm Davey Loomis, and I'm here with Morgantown Swing.
Hi, I'm David Loomis, and I'm here with Morgantown Swing.
We were talking a little bit earlier about how difficult it is for nonprofits to brand themselves, to get their word out. And we always have too big projects, not enough people, not enough money. And these wonderful ladies who are going to present to it for us this evening, they've put together a wonderful program, and I just know that you're going to take away a lot of really great information. We will send you your takeaways after the program so that you'll have a hard copy. So let me introduce our first speaker is Sarah Rogers. Sarah is the president of Blaine Turner Advertising, a strategic communications and brand advertising agency. She earned a BS in marketing and an MBA from WVU and is recognized by Google as a certified online advertising professional. Next is Barbara Craig, a good friend of mine. Barbara worked for 20 years with the U.S. Postal Service in training and employee communications. She has a master's in communications, taught at Fairmont State, and has done PR campaigns for local churches and nonprofits, including MSNAP and the Federation of Humane Organizations of West Virginia. Amanda Posey is the Director of Communications and Marketing for the United Way of Monongalia County and Preston counties. Amanda worked for the Dominion Post for 16 years as a copy editor, reporter, photographer, videographer, multimedia specialist, and in a variety of editor roles. She also teaches journalism and strategic communications writing at WVU. And Meredith is a digital media strategist for Blaine Turner Advertising. She earned her BA in communications media from North Carolina State University and her MS in integrated marketing communications from WVU. Meredith holds certifications from Facebook, Microsoft Bing Ads, and Google Ads. I'm going to turn the mic over to Sarah now to start the program. We're going to have a Q&A afterwards, so be sure to write your questions down on this.
hopefully you'll have lots of questions. The retails will be open for you after the event, after we get all of our answers. So I certainly like to invite everybody to see what a wonderful little upscale thrift store is like. So
Thank you guys for being here. I know it's a busy time of the year, and with it being a Sunday, I'm sure you have things to do at home, so I appreciate you spending the time with us. And if nothing else, I hope you have one fantastic takeaway that you guys can get started on your planning into 2020. And if you cannot hear me, please let me know. I'll try to speak a little bit louder. So one of the things when I was talking to Nancy, she said, you know, these nonprofits really need some good tips and techniques on how to get their name out and how to really increase their brand awareness. And I know that the three ladies beside me are going to talk about some fantastic tactics that you guys can use. So I thought that I would start it off by talking how important a strategic marketing plan is. And I know when we hear the words marketing plan, we think of something that has to be 50 to 75 pages and only large institutions may need one. I'm here to tell you that's actually false, and you guys could have a marketing plan that's between 4 to 5 pages, and it would be something that I consider a very strategic roadmap for you to have, because at the end of the day, it's all about the strategy, and if you get that on point, you'll know the messaging and the measurements that you need to use in order to get the rest of these tactics up to speed. So the takeaway that Mary is actually going to be emailing to you is the table of contents of what a strategic marketing plan should entail. And I wanted to quickly go through what those would be, and you can kind of start thinking about how you would start to populate your marketing plan. So obviously it's important to know as you go into your 2020 planning what your primary goals are and how you're going to measure it. Because at the end of the day, if you're not measuring what you're producing, there's no way at the end of the year that you can say, okay, the ROI on this was positive, we need to do this again the following year, or you know what, this really isn't beneficial, we shouldn't waste time and money or resources on this particular tactic. So from that, I would start by looking at your internal and your external situation. So internal is going to be anything that are in the doors of your organization. So I would start to write down what are some changes in staff, are there any changes in location, are there any sorts of partnerships that you are involved in, and then what's your budget. So that's going to be your situation analysis for internal. External is going to be anything that's outside the doors of your organization. So is it reputation? So that's going to be a big part of this. You know, look at your Google listing and see what type of reviews you have, what the ratings are, and also look at your Facebook listings. Because I know Meredith for sure is going to be talking a lot about social media. That's a very, very free tool. And what we're finding is when anyone is interested in either volunteering, donating, signing up for an organization, people are going to either Google and researching, and they see your Google reviews, or they go to Facebook, they look at your organization, and they see the type of reviews. That's a good point to talk about too, because one easy way to get branding and to get reputation is when you have a great experience with someone, please ask them to go online and give you a review. It's something that's very simple to do, it's completely free, and Google loves that type of encouragement and engagement. The higher your reviews are on Google, the more that your website's going to keep populating, because Google obviously wants businesses that have high Google results to be on the first page. So that's something that I would recommend as well. But why it's important is to write down what your reviews are at the beginning of the year. That way you can measure it throughout the year and see if you've had any sort of increase or enhancement for those ratings and reviews. Something else to look at is your competition, just to see what they're doing. Keep an eye out on them. If they're doing something good, there's no harm in copying in a certain way. We're not going to be able to reinvent the wheel every time we try to do something. So part of that external analysis would be looking at your competition as well. So going on with that, I would also recommend to have a communications analysis as part of your marketing plan, and that's spending time, on your website and looking at the type of results that you're getting. So highly recommend if you have a website to have Google Analytics on that. It's a completely free service that gives you an enormous amount of information. That information is going to include the number of visitors your website has, where they're coming from, what pages they're looking at, even the time of day. So this is going to give you a way to look to see if your organization has any sort of seasonality, and that's going to help you start to plan your marketing tactics as well in terms of time of year or even time of day, time of week, etc. So make sure that you're putting down the website analytics that you have. I would also look at your social media analytics and make sure that's included. Again, just so you're measuring. So you know at the beginning of the year, if you have 250 likes on your Facebook page, continue to measure it and see what happens quarterly and then what, if there was any growth towards the end of the year. The other thing I would look at, so this would be number 6 out of all the things I've talked about, is trends in nonprofit marketing. And that's just spend some time Googling. Again, looking to see what other people have done online is a great way to see what trending is. We know in the past year, some of the biggest trends is personalization. So if you are not talking directly to the individual that you're trying to market, they're gonna just not even think about you. Right now, it's a really busy time of the year when it comes to emails. I mean, we're getting an enormous amount of emails every day because of Christmas and holiday shopping. But you'll probably notice the majority of your emails will probably say your name, or if it's something that you are looking at in terms of retail, it'll say you might also like this, or you might also like that, because just of what you're looking at online. So again, making sure that the content that you're providing is personalized to that particular person. So one of the things I'd recommend also is having personas, target audience personas. So a lot of the times, we might start to target people based on just demographics. And when we think of demographics, we think of age or gender or location or even what their occupation is. But really, we should be targeting individuals based on their behavior. One of the, this is going to be an example in your takeaway, but Make-A-Wish Foundation actually spent a lot of money and a lot of time on a content strategy based on personas. And this is something that any organization can do. It's something that you can do for free, is to sit down and really look at who is your target audience. You should roughly have 2 to 3 individuals that you can actually name, you can have a picture, and you can talk directly to them. So for instance, the Make-A-Wish Foundation that I thought was great is an individual named Vanessa. And Vanessa actually has a photo. And they break it down that she is the young professional volunteer persona. And they do give some demographics, but it's really what are her traits? Is she always online? Does she enjoy going to local record stores? Whatever it may be, but actually create these personas. That way any of the marketing that you're doing needs to be directed solely to them. We know that if we're not providing actual content that is valuable to the persona, they're not going to look at it. Just the same way that you guys do when you get emails that aren't necessarily targeted to you. We normally delete them, or we actually don't even open them. So one of the things that I would do, again, is to create these personas, and that will help you throughout the year with every single thing that you do. The nice thing about having this marketing plan is if you're maybe approached throughout the year and you're asked to run a newspaper ad, or you're asked to maybe put some money towards a radio campaign, you can go back and you can look at your marketing plan. And if that tactic is not listed in there, it does not reach your target audience, it does not reach the primary goals that you want, it's an easy way for you to say, no, this is not in my marketing plan. This will not affect what I need to do at the end of the year. The other things that you would have in your marketing plan would be your initiatives. And that's where you start to talk about, okay, these are the different tactics that I want, which is what the next 3 ladies will talk about. And this is the messaging that we're going to use for each of those tactics. And this is the measurement that we're going to use for those. Because again, if you can't measure, there's no way at the end of the year that you're able to say this was actually worth the ROI that you put towards it. Finally, I would include obviously your annual budget, but a marketing calendar. Your marketing calendar should be a screenshot of the 12 months, and it's going to be your roadmap on when you're going to advertise, or when you're going to push out ad campaigns, or perhaps do any of your email marketing or your public relations. And again, this is a way that you stay on track. part of your marketing calendar will also include a content calendar. So right now, I think there is a day of the week for everything, whether it's National Pretzel Day or National Best Friend Day, whatever it may be. And people can get really creative when it comes to marketing tactics because of those days. So make sure ones that are targeted to perhaps the organization that you're in, National Dance Day, whatever it may be, is on that calendar and you're creating content around that. Oh, sorry, thank you. So I think that content calendar is going to go into that marketing calendar, and it's really going to help you stay on track. Again, so in this packet that you're going to get from Nancy is going to be the table of contents. And again, you don't have to do all of these. We have seen marketing plans, like I said, that are from 4 pages to 70 pages. And it's just a way for you to get your thoughts on paper and your primary goals, because really at the end of the day, if you don't have goals and you're not measuring, it's going to be very difficult for you to stay on track. The last thing that I would include in your marketing plan is your brand standards guide. And that's really important too. As an organization, you should have a brand standards guide that shows exactly maybe what your logo is, how and when you should use your logo, and any of the taglines that are in that. Again, if you don't have that, I would recommend starting on that right now, because the more that someone sees your branding, the more that they're going to remember you, and that you're going to have that top of mind awareness when it comes to someone wanting to use your organization, wanting to donate, wanting to volunteer their time.
My name's, excuse me, to the call of the my name is Barbara Drigg. I am the director of a rural outreach of a nonprofit in Clarksburg, and it's called Bless the Pets. I think my claim to fame here is pretty much learning how to, I've learned, okay, I did a hippie newspaper long before most of you went on. And I did video when you had to run the equipment in boxes as big as this. So I started out when the power was in the distribution, and the distribution didn't have the right equipment to get the distribution. Well, it's turned up on its head now. Everybody has the distribution. Everybody's got a phone. Everybody can do video. Everybody can do brain surgery too, but some are better than others. So my emphasis is on what's practical, what's doable. Now, my little thing, my husband and I got involved with this group, the Greater Clarksburg Evangelistic Association, about 10, 12 years ago. There were 6 or 8 of us in there, and all of us were dog lovers. So I got this bee in my bonnet because my dog died, and we went to get another one. We went to the Harrison County Humane, and you would see him in this book. He's on page 16. But it was a little Weimaraner, pure blood Weimaraner that had been starved to death in Harrison County. Animal Control took him away, weighed 20 pounds. When he came out, he was trotting and prancing. And I could see every bone, every rib, every hip. And I said, give me that dog. I go home and love him and take care of him. And the whole situation made me so mad. And I talked to Laura Miller, who was then the director there. She said, oh, that's not the worst we see. You ought to see what we see. And I had been thinking about this, Answers About Pets from the Bible, for years. And when I got Riley, it just popped out of me. This whole thing just came popping out. And when we did it through that nonprofit, we all agreed, yeah, this is great. So I wrote this book, Answers About Pets from the Bible. I, laid it out, wrote it, researched it, photographed it, everything, the whole thing. And at first, this is kind of how mission creep can affect you. Most of you don't have a huge budget, I'm guessing. You may be like, well, right now, my husband and I are our nonprofit. We do what we can manage, what we can do, and what we want to do. We don't worry about a budget because it sort of takes care of itself, or we find we're in the position we can fund it ourselves, what little we want to do. We like to keep it small that way. But I thought, this would be great. Churches would like this for like a stewardship study or something. Well, I was very wrong about my target market. They weren't interested at all. But I would do some op-eds for the Dominion Post about this issue, and one day I went to some event and sat at a table next to Nancy Young at the Island Park, and that was sort of the end of that. But anyway, from there I got involved with her, then I got involved with FOHO. What I want to say about it is that in the process of learning what they do, in the depth of the research that they do, in the breadth of their reach, I realized that I can get exponentially more oomph for my desire to help animals by bringing my skills to what they're already doing. So rather than me trying to recreate the wheel and making some big deal out of our nonprofit, I just, hey, let's work together. So we've done that for 10 or 12 years, and you know, I do some of what I can do for them, and I use what they have, and it's a very agreeable, maybe not, you know, philosophically we're related, but our purpose is the same. And I would suggest that you consider that with other groups in the area. Don't feel isolated and insulated that I'm a this and I can't talk to them, because you might stumble upon a real jewel. I have prepared, and they will email you, telling your story, writing photo, video, and other things you ought to know. My approach is, excuse me, I'm sorry. If you don't have a big budget to hire some of these experts, you need at least a trustworthy, reliable, interested person within your group who is willing to take on the PR aspects of getting the word out about your organization. It's not something you can do flash in the pan. It won't be effective. You need to chip away at it on a regular basis. I do this with mine. I just put it on my card. Thank you. I've got a WordPress. I haven't gotten it up and going well yet. I have a web page. I don't do much with it. I do a lot with YouTube, because I've got a YouTube channel that has my animal stuff and some other things. But that's what I've chosen to focus on, because first of all, I enjoy doing it. But you need someone in your group that is willing to commit to this aspect. If you're an animal person, it may not be a rescuer. It may be somebody from outside that just has a heart for it. Whatever, your work isn't your publicity. Your publicity takes a lot. As you know, there are people who have businesses doing this. So if you're going to try to do it yourself, you've got to find somebody that will commit X amount per week, X amount per day. And it needs to be somebody who's close to the throne and in the know of what's going on. I tried to do it once with Clarksburg Mission from my home, and I knew I was the last one to find out what needed to go on the website and all the social media stuff. So that didn't work. It has to be somebody who knows what's going on. Then you want to do what's doable. People fall in love with technology. Oh, I want to get this. I want a video. I want a film. Well, you need to ask, why do I want this? What am I trying to accomplish here? Is this going to effectively, do I need to get volunteers? Do I need to raise money? Don't get hung up on the vehicle. You keep in mind your message. What is my message? What do I need? What am I trying to say? Excuse me. So it's like juggling. Get one ball in the air, get that one going well. Then when you've got that one under control, you add another one until you get to whatever is your limit. You want to use your available resources, mostly free on the internet. There's so much free stuff you can do on the internet. But there again, you have to have someone who's willing, and they can learn how to do it, but they need to be able to, they need to be committed. I won't go through all of this, but simple stuff. Stay professional. Make sure your spelling, grammar, punctuation, names, dates, locations, and other facts are correct, because whatever you do put out there represents your work and your organization. And you want that to be credible in the best image that you can put forth. At the same time, you want it to be honest and authentic. I was at a nonprofit one time thing around here, and I was shocked. I had to interrupt the guy. He stood up and said, "Oh, you don't have a picture of kids playing? Just go on the internet and get one." No. Just go on the internet and get something. Number one, it's inauthentic, unless you go to stock photo or someplace that has the rights that are, you're allowed to use it. It's lying if it's not the kids or people that were at your event. People will pick up on that. And once they find out you're trying to shine them on or give them some kind of a bigger than I really am image, that's going to affect their money giving. That's going to affect a whole lot of stuff. So you want to be genuine and authentic. That's why if you take your own pictures, write your own stuff, then you don't run into that problem. With children, you do need to get permission from their parents. Really. I did that with these kids. These were kids that I went to church, and I said, you know what? I said, I need some testosterone. This is not politically correct in my animal thing, because it's all women. I said, can I take pictures of your boys and their humongous dog? They said, yeah. So we went out to their house, shot a bunch of pictures with this big, huge dog. And he's on my cover. These kids are in college now. But I got the signed release to use this image from their parents at home in the event that, ever gets big, they want to sue me. I said, oh, you don't have to. So you got to cover yourself that way. What she was saying about a schedule, a calendar, that's brilliant. You need to have a big calendar that anybody can see. And if you're going to have an event the second Wednesday of next month, then you need to work in advance, prepare in advance of your due date. I learned this a long time ago. You do it in advance, it's ready when it's ready, time to do it. You don't jam yourself. Doing stuff at the last minute just jams you and doesn't give you a good product. So you, like April 15th, they swear to the post office. Every April 15th, they run him off and say, we need a sign to put out front. I said, gee, it'd be nice if we knew when tax day was going to be. We can make that in advance and put it out front. That's stupid stuff that people just, don't think. Remember, what's technically possible is not always legal or ethical. I was just talking to somebody here about Photoshop. Making something, taking off a few blemishes is one thing, and recreating a human being or all they got to do is watch television and see what's going on there. I complained to him about these outer space NASA programs, which some of it's the Hubble telescope photography, but a lot of it's animation, and they don't tell you it's animation. So what are you doing? You're representing Discovery, whoever it is, that this is real stuff, and the NASA stuff's real stuff. And maybe we're savvy enough to figure that out, but that's not always going to be the case. So it's a very subtle environment, media-wise, that we're in right now. When you get distracted or jammed up or difficulty in trying to get your stuff out, redirect to what you can do, what's doable. Reformat your same factual material for different media vehicles, file save as. You can probably do that anyway. And something I've noticed too, Facebook, Twitter, everything. Everybody's using different stuff. And are you going to try to do 10 different vehicles, or are you going to stick to 1 or 2 or 3? I'm thinking it's better to do 1 or 2 or 3 that you can manage, that differentiate somewhat. And not everybody's going to the same thing. Maybe even ask people, what they go to. But it's hard to keep up with everything. And if you've only got one person, it's going to take them all the time. I've got a little thing on the back here about video, which you can just read. But you can get a lot of good, simple stuff with the equipment that you have. You don't have to have all the bells and whistles. It's more about concentrating your message and your skills in some of the basic photographic and audio, just basic stuff. You can do a lot without having to spend a whole lot of money, because you get, if you got a lot of money, that's great. There's businesses that do it. Me, I don't, we don't. So we kind of do what we can with what I have purchased and enjoyed. But okay, for one thing, got this neat. The first thing I do every day with my camera, it's in my book. I went to a church blessing, blessing of the pets years ago. This woman had an ice maker tray with water in it and a frog. And, everybody's looking at the frog. The frog's name was Mortimer. This is 10, 12 years ago. And she said, this is Mortimer the frog. He's 30. Well, at the time, he was 28 years old. I said, what? This woman had got this frog for her son. He was a child. Now he's grown, out of school, married. He left the frog with Mama. And Mama's taking care of this frog now. Unless he's died, he's 34, 35. So when I bought my camera, I said, I've got to interview this woman. So I've got the link in my book. You can look at it, or you can go online and look at Creator Appreciator, look up Mortimer. But I thought, to me that's very small town stuff, but it's amazing. And it does go to my philosophical question: how come this frog doesn't live so long? Why? But anyway, if you're going to use other people's contributions, work, photos, or whatever, get the permission and give them credit. You might think, I'll just use this. I was sitting one time watching TV late at night, and there was a local organization that had, it was like a private group, and they were going to do a TV station. Had all this stuff running. They had a few minutes at the end. And I was sitting there watching about 10 o'clock at night, and I'd done an animated film at my college, get my master's, and there goes my animated film up on the television. And I looked, it was so distinctive, it could not possibly have been anything anybody else did. It was one of I took postage stamps and National Geographic magazines and did this animated. So I called them up and said, what are you doing? I film on the, oh, they gave it to us from so-and-so. No, that's not ethical, and it happens all the time with the internet. It's just, if you can avoid that with your organization, you will be very well off. Because donors pay attention to stuff like that. People with any kind of money pay attention to how you're going to manage it. I know one time, we don't have all that kind of money, but we did have some retirement. And, there's just everybody, how many minutes up? 1 minute, okay. I'll tell you this quick. This guy said, came to our house. I'll talk to you. I'll get your personal information. Oh yeah, very personal, okay. So he did that, went away, came back, spelled my name wrong, had the social security number wrong. I said, this man wants me to give him my retirement money? So think of your integrity. Think of who is willing to commit to a certain amount of media for you. And when you get beyond the point that it's simple, congratulate yourself. And when you get a big budget, hire these guys. Thank you.
Hey everyone, can you hear me? All right, so I am the Director of Marketing and Communications for the United Way here in Montague and Preston counties. And so I kind of want to talk to you a little bit because I came from the background of journalism. I came from the Dominion Post. I worked there in a variety of positions for about 16, going on 17 years. And then I decided to jump into the PR realm, right? So that's where we are now. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about relations with the media and why that's so important, and better ways you can get your events covered, get some coverage for your organization, that sort of thing. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is obviously you don't have a lot of money as a nonprofit. I don't care how big of a nonprofit you are, marketing and communications is always kind of the side business, right? It's always the position that gets a little bit tossed to the side. So I do want to reiterate what Barbara said about finding somebody who is good with communications in your organization. You may not have somebody who is a PR expert or somebody who's a marketing expert, but if you have somebody who's a pretty good writer and can understand the basics, that's what you need. You need somebody who can do that kind of full-time for your organization, right? Some of you may have a full-time marketing and communications person. That's great. The United Way does. We were lucky to do that. But I know a lot of you probably don't. So what I want to do here is give you some tips and tricks, some things that you can do on your own. Even if you are a one-person nonprofit, you can do some of these and it'll make it that much easier for you, some shortcuts and such. So first off, find that communications person. Who's going to handle it? Who has the time to do it? Right? If it's you, great. If you can pass it off on somebody, wonderful. Next thing I want you to do is take the time to research some of the organizations, the media outlets around you that you want to cover your events. Okay? Why is that important? Because you have to know who you're writing to. Everybody always says write to your audience, right? But as a PR person, you're going to be writing to a lot of different media outlets, okay? So you're going to have to know what they're looking for, what's important to them, what's going to interest them in coming and covering your event or writing about something your nonprofit is doing, okay? So you also might want to go out and meet some people at the newspaper, at the radio stations, at WVU, WDTV, right? West Virginia Radio Corporation. I have put together a list for you of contacts. So this is going to be a little bit easier, hopefully. Nancy's going to email it to all of you. It's going to have contacts for newspaper, radio, broadcast, WVU, College of Media, however, like many different things I could think of. And I basically took our list, our PR list that we send releases to, and just whittled it down for you to the really important people and who I think you might be interested in knowing. And if there was a name on there of somebody that I deal with on a regular basis that I trust and know my information is going to get to the right person, I put them on there. Okay? So that's what you're going to get from me. So I want to give you some insider tips here. Sit down with some of these people if you have that opportunity. If you don't, send them an email. Just tell them who you are, okay? They're busy, of course, just like you guys are. Everybody's busy. So if you can get some FaceTime with that person, that's wonderful. Go have a coffee with them. Go have lunch with them. Explain to them who you are, what your nonprofit does, and what you'd like to see happen with them. Okay? That's my first tip. Equally as important as your relationship with the media is knowing who your audience is. That can make or break your story, right? Any story that you're sending out. So you probably know this from different marketing in your organization. You're going to want to do flyers. You're going to want to do press releases. You might want to do a PSA for the radio. You might want to put together a commercial. You might want to do some video, right? Know who your audience is. One of the biggest things I do, and Meredith's probably going to talk about this a little bit, is create an event page. It's amazing. Social media is so amazing, it will get that buzz out there for you, okay? If you have an event like geared toward animals, let's say, you're probably going to put dogs and cats on the flyers. You're going to send your email blast out to people that have shopped at retails, people that have come to previous events for you, who have supported animals, right? Find your audience. You might want to put flyers in local pet stores, okay? Reach out to local veterinarians. Think about tools like that, ways that you can reach those people who you're trying to reach. That's your audience, okay? So I want to talk just a second about timing. When is the right time to send things to the media? Obviously, it's never too early to send out press releases, media advisories, all of that to the media, okay? But here's the key. You want to do it at least 2 weeks in advance, and then, even if you send out something 2 weeks in advance, follow up a couple days before the event, okay? Why is that important? Because these people are busy too. They might let it slip through the cracks. That'll get them back on their radar. They'll circle back to it, and hey, maybe they have a reporter or a photographer or videographer they can send out to your event, okay? So I would say send your press releases out 2 weeks in advance, then remind them, follow up with, you can even just forward the email that you sent before and say, hey, I'm just doing a quick follow-up a couple days before your event. Don't send out too many things at once, though. Here I am telling you to send things out to the media. Don't inundate them. That's really important, too. My general rule of thumb is about once every 2 weeks you want to send them something, okay? And that's just because you want to keep them abreast of your situation, but you also don't want to send too many press releases and they're like, oh, there's another one from the United Way again. I'm just going to throw that in my deleted items, right? Here's an example, recently something we did. We're running a campaign right now for the United Way. You probably have heard of it. So we also have this warming shelter. Is anybody familiar with the warming shelter? Okay. So we had that coming up at the same time, and we had some campaign events around the same time. So I was I was planning out my calendar of when I wanted to send these things out, right? I didn't want to put the warming list out, or the warming event out 2 weeks, or within 2 weeks of when I was publishing something about the campaign, if that makes sense. I didn't want to put them in on top of each other because that makes the warming shelter less likely to get covered, or that makes our campaign event less likely to get covered because I've got all these things. So the media themselves, they're going to structure their stories, out and, do it that way. So I don't want them having to cover the United Way so much so that nobody's listening anymore, right? So one other thing, everybody's heard of a press release, right? Okay, I'll talk about press releases here in a second, but I want to talk about a shortcut that could potentially save you if you don't have a lot of time. The media advisory is really underrated, okay? Does anybody know what a media advisory is? It's just a short little bit of information, right? Talking about, let's say you have an upcoming event. We recently had our midway campaign report, right? We had it back at late October. I sent out a press release, yeah, because I had the time to put a press release together prior to the event, but I wanted to get the media there to cover it themselves. And a good way to do that is to send out a media advisory. It basically just says what the event is, where it is, when it is, how it's happening, the who, what, where, when, why of your event, okay? And it can literally be who, colon, whatever it is, what, colon, whatever it is, right? That's severely underrated. I think we can do more of that. And that's a good way for, if you email that out, email that media advisory, they will know about your event. They can put the date right on top of it, slip it in their folders, and they'll come up to it and they'll say, hey, we can't cover that today, okay? Press releases, I'll touch on that a little bit. So think about what type of news you would like to write press releases for. Obviously, if you have an event coming up, that's something big. Obviously, we had the warming shelter, which I mentioned before. We had the warming shelter, which I mentioned before. And so it was something that was not centered around an event, but I thought it needed to get out there. It was news. Spruce Street United Methodist Church opened their doors for the first time in the history of maybe West Virginia, definitely this area. We had a church opening their doors as a warming shelter, and that was big news to me. Also, I know from being a journalist, I know what they're going to come back and ask about first. Money. So I went ahead and put in the release how much money we got for the warming shelter, how much it was going to cost, and how that money was divvied up, right? That was just important to me. I knew they were going to ask it. Better to go ahead and be upfront about it and put it in there. So really quickly, how do you get the media to know what's going on, and how do you get them to care? So I can tell you from personal experience, and Barbara can probably tell you this too. As a reporter, you don't want to have to edit and rewrite a bunch of copy. That's the worst. When you get an email and it's a mess, it doesn't have grammar, good punctuation, it's not written in AP style. I don't know if any of you know what AP style is or how it's written, but we don't want to rewrite something, okay? So think about that when you're sending out releases. Write it in a format that looks like something you would see in the paper, okay? Write short paragraphs, really quick and to the point. Keep opinion out of it. I know that's really hard for a lot of people, but keep opinion out of it because it's going to get cut anyway if it goes to the media, okay? Take out the opinion. I'm running up against the clock here. So some odds and ends. Send your press releases as a Word document or a PDF. That's the easiest. Send your flyers as a PDF if you can. Photos should be JPEGs. I usually do about 300 DPI so they don't lose the quality and get pixelated. If you don't know what that means, we can talk more. Ask me later on. Who do you want to send it to? Everybody on that list that I sent you, right? Go ahead and send everybody on that list a copy of your press releases, a copy of your media advisories. Keep them in the loop as to what's going on with your nonprofit. If you have an event, take photos at it. You can send those photos to media afterward, and they may publish those in the newspaper for you. A lot of people don't realize that. It's a simple thing. If they don't have time to send somebody to an event, you can take the photos yourself, submit them to the paper. Chances are they're probably going to run it somewhere, okay? It might even end up being like a package on their local front or something if it's a really slow day for them, right? So you can do that. That's a good way to get your news out there. Always provide them contact information. Follow up with them. They're busy, so you might not hear anything right away. Or perhaps at all. They might just take the release and throw it in the newspaper, and you might not know what's even in there. So make sure you get a subscription, make sure you're watching the TV news, make sure you're listening to the radio to see if you can hear right after something that you sent went out. But the fact that you sent them something, that shows that you care. about your nonprofit, that shows that you're passionate about your nonprofit. And to me, journalists are always looking for those passionate people to tell their stories, right? So help them tell your story, okay?
Hi, I'm Meredith. Can you hear me? Thank you, ladies, so much. I feel really great to be able to follow you. I'm going to be talking about social media best practices for nonprofits. One of the great things about social media is that it is free to us, but knowing how to use it can seem a little overwhelming, especially with how many platforms there are, how many platforms are coming out, and just all the stuff that's changing about it constantly. As part of my takeaway, I have everything that I'm going to talk about right now, as well as an example content calendar that I hope will be helpful to you in the coming months. The first thing I want to cover is consistency across all of your platforms, all of your profiles. Sarah mentioned a brand guidelines. Well, you can also have guidelines for your social media account. You want to make sure that your name, your description, any contact information that you have for your volunteers across every social media account is the same, so that you're putting together one unified front moving forward. This also includes imagery. Are you going to have any graphics in your images? Are you going to have filters? Are they going to be candid? What's the quality of them? Another thing to consider is tone of voice. Who is the person speaking for your brand? Are they going to be very, very informative? Are they going to be a little bit more relaxed, maybe with some emojis? That is something that you have to consider, especially when you're representing your nonprofit, your cause, because you want to make sure that you are as authentic as you can be. Next, you want to make sure that you have a content calendar. This is something that was mentioned by all three ladies, and I definitely agree. Content calendar saves my life every single day. What it is a strategic plan for your content for the next month or the next 3 months. I like to fill these up with upcoming holidays, events, social media events like National Dance Day, and organization events. If you have a project coming up, or if there's an anniversary for the nonprofit, if one of your volunteers or staff member has an important life event that you want to highlight, I would put that on the calendar. You'll see just how quickly it will fill up, and your days as a social media manager will become a lot easier with planning ahead. I recommend using an online publishing tool. There's a lot of free tools online that do have paid tier plans. They offer multiple accounts for the people in your organization to manage. You can connect multiple social media accounts to it if you wanted to schedule a post for Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all at the same time. I like Hootsuite the best because it offers me 30 scheduled posts for a month, and I can connect 3 accounts to it. It also has a really great phone app, which makes it easier for posting on the go. If I'm at an event and I know I want to post to multiple accounts, I just pull out my phone, draft a post, and it's right there. As part of my takeaway, I've listed a couple of platforms, or a couple of tools that offer both free and non-profit discount pricing. So they're very happy to help you with your social media management. Once you have that content calendar in place, you want to fill it with content that drives action. Not only do you want to keep your nonprofit alive on social media, you want to encourage people to interact with you. This can be done by sharing links to your website. Yes, you want to show the impact of everything that you're doing. You want to show what it takes to be a volunteer, but you also want to give people the resources to make that step and volunteer. This content also needs to be shareable. If you have a website where you're writing blogs, you want to write blogs that answer questions people are already searching for. An example might be an animal shelter that is trying to promote volunteers to come and help out with the animals. They could write a blog titled 5 dogs that need to be walked right now. That is a very shareable blog that I can see on my Facebook timeline probably this afternoon. It's important to find a balance between content that is informative and buzzworthy. Obviously, the dog blog might be a little too relaxed for some nonprofits. And so another example might be a nonprofit looking for volunteers, writing a blog on 5 summer volunteer activities for middle schoolers, trying to reach that demographic. This blog would be posted to their social media, moms would pick up on it and share it to their other mom groups, and suddenly there's a whole new audience that you're reaching that can get your content. Finally, social media is always changing, and that can be overwhelming for a lot of people. However, there are lots of online resources that are open to everyone to learn more. For instance, Facebook has free online courses for almost every part of their platform, whether you're just trying to set up a page, whether you're trying to learn the analytics of your page or any boosted content. Twitter also has an online flight school, very funny, which I enjoy, that offers free courses for you to learn how to better use the platform, especially how to craft a tweet, when is the best time to send them, and how to view the analytics for your Twitter account. For those looking to get better at social media management in general, not just platform specific, there are courses on Hootsuite and HubSpot Academy, which are also free. And HubSpot Academy also offers free certifications, which is a great way to bolster your volunteers, your staff, and the organization as a whole. One of the things I like best about social media is that it is open to everyone. And so it shouldn't be intimidating. You really just have to get out there and try and engage with your followers. It's a great way to learn about what they care about and learn about how you can get them involved with what you care about. Thank you.